and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo, and today I want to talk to you about something that you can read from time to time coming up in the comments, not on my channel right now, but anywhere, on other big tech YouTubers or websites dedicated to technology, and especially when a new AMD graphic card is about to be launched. Because one of the most common comments about some people, I'm not going to say haters, but maybe they are, is that Nvidia tends to nerf your GPU over time in order for them to sell you new GPUs. So that means that if you bought a GPU 3 years, 4 years ago, then maybe it's not performing as well today because Nvidia is doing that on purpose on their drivers to try to force you to buy a new GPU. So since that this is a common occurrence, I thought to test it myself and see how true is this. So for this, I took a 1080, a GTX 1080, which is a 2016 GPU, which is a quite good still today, to try and test if if this true, after 6 years and 3 more generations of GPU, that series, the RTX 2000, 3000, and now the 4000. Probably it's about time for Nvidia to start nerfing this GPU, right? And maybe even on the last generation they should have started to nerf this one in order for you to buy the new one. So what I did was I got a bunch of games. I actually had like 16, 17 games lined up to test. Unfortunately, some of those games didn't work with the original driver, and the reason is I am testing the games with the original launch driver for the 1080, which was the 368.25, against the latest driver, which are the 527.37. 200 numbers there, almost of difference in version of drivers. And the idea was to see, is there any worse performance from launch to today? How do they perform? So I started testing, and I wanted to test games that came before the 1080 was launched, games in the middle of the life of the car, and new games. Unfortunately, games like Cyberpunk or Red Dead Redemption will not launch with the original driver, so I could not test those. So I try as many and modern games like Spider-Man and so on to try to test this situation, and the only game that will start was God of War. Of course, all these games I mentioned, they do work with the 1080, but only on newer drivers, and that will destroy the point that I'm trying to make here, or that I'm trying to demonstrate. So I needed to test with the original driver and the latest driver. So what I got is this situation. What I got is that all games here, every single one of the 11 games I was able to test, all of them behave better, if either the same or better. And actually only one game behaved exactly the same, and that was Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was basically the old driver worked at 87.86 frames, and the new one were at 87.88. So basically there is margin of error, no problems. Where there is no margin of error is on the rest of the games that were able to start with the oldest driver. For example, Far Cry 4 got 5 frames, which doesn't seem much considering this game already was running at 110 FPS, but it's still a game and you're getting now 115, so closest to that 120 that many people want to, and maybe lower in some settings you're able to get it. Now when we test things like Deus Ex Mankind Divided, we go from 72.3 to 81.6. And when we go to Gears of War 4, we go from 87.5 to 100.7, showing 13 FPS improvement. Watch Dogs didn't improve that much, only 2 frames, so we can say it's around margin of errors maybe, but there was definitely an improvement on all the tests I did with this game. It was always very small, but there it was there. Forza 4 is probably one of the ones that got the biggest jump in performance and went from 84 to 101 FPS, which is a very big jump. We're talking 17 FPS, and that's very good considering that this is a game that benefits from every frame you can get out of it to make the experience better. Just Cause 4 went from 98 to 89, to 98 78, which is a lot. It's a big jump too. The Witcher 3 got from 76 to 83, which I consider that a win. Is always, you know, better when you get more frames, but when you get noticeable more frames. Hellblade was also a big jump in performance. It went from 43 FPS to 55 FPS, comparing the two drivers. That means there has been a lot of improvement when it comes to Unreal Engine, probably, and that's why we have seen this jump. So now we are closer to being able to play that game at 60 FPS if you're willing to lower some settings. At least on the 1080. Now, God of War, it was the modern launch, or the closest to a modern launch game that ran with the original driver. Didn't gain that much, but it still is a game. We went from 49 to 52. That means that even a modern game that was able to run on the original is still benefiting from some improvement on this latest driver. And last week, because we already mentioned Rise of the Tomb Raider, is the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which went from 60 to 70, which is, you may see like not a big game, but this means that now you are probably going to have a consistent 60 FPS in all cases, whereas before you probably could get under 60 at some point. So we're seeing big improvement here. So as you can see, we are talking about big improvement. And so after all the 11 games I tested provided an average of 75.6 FPS, and then testing with the latest driver, I got an average of 83.65 FPS. And remember, this is FPS, and remember, this is an average, which means that those games that didn't gain that much are going to bring the average low, but we saw some games going as big as almost 15 frames per second. So all things considered, you may say this is a win in every situation, because you know, at least what we could have expected is to have the same performance. Okay, and remember, I'm not testing the games as the way they came out. I'm testing it now with many different patches. Like, oh, I'm testing the game in 2013 with an old benchmark. I'm testing all the games the way they are right now using an old driver. So all the optimizations that they did, or all the updates that even may bring new features or whatever, they are included. That means that, you know, that old driver should have performed even better or worse. I'm not sure how it came before at the time, but what I'm seeing here is that there is an improvement on every single level. So for those people that always come with the same comment, you know, on tech channel or websites or anything else, saying, you know, the Nvidia Nerf your video card, all I can say is I could not see that. I could not give an evidence that that is true at all. If there can be maybe one driver at one point that makes things slower, or maybe it was an update on the game or something. It could be. There are, you know, drivers are a complex thing, and at some point they may have some issues. But at least comparing the two of them at the moment with these 11 games, I couldn't see any evidence that games are behaving worse. In fact, all of them except for one are behaving better, and sometimes much better. So as you can see there, I don't think there is any interest for Nvidia to start nerfing all GPU cards, because, you know, if you can prove this, then you can even take them to court, because at the end of the day, they are sort of doing that. But with a GTX 1080, which is a almost 7-year-old card, that's not the case. So I don't know, do you have any card that you can say this is the case? Because the only thing I can see happening is what happened with the Series 7 of Nvidia, where they were specific cards at the time that they came with certain features, okay, and they behave in a certain way. And then when Vulkan or DirectX 12 came out, this card didn't support that very well, and the performance was very bad. But it was bad because the GPU was designed that way to begin with, because they were maybe not thinking ahead or whatever, and the cards would behave very good with the games that they had at the moment, but were not very good for new APIs. And yeah, but that's not nerfing with drivers. That's just maybe, you know, an oversight or not interest in creating a GPU for the future, or whatever reason Nvidia had at the time. But, you know, the card was running very well for the games that they were at the moment, but not for new APIs. But that's a problem with the GPU itself. It's not Nvidia nerfing your card because drivers issues or anything, because those cards didn't improve at all, no matter what Nvidia did. It was architecture problem. So there was nothing that Nvidia could do, maybe improve a little bit using drivers, but at the end of the day, they could not do much. And I think this was for the 7 series, the 780, 760, and so on, that behaved really bad when Vulkan and Direct came out. So that's one example for just to give you. So yeah, that's it. I don't see Nvidia nerfing your GPU, so you can put this to rest, and don't worry, let's see what happens on the 13th of December. Unfortunately, as I said before, I won't have this card because I don't have the money to buy them, and I am not, unfortunately, being given anything by Nvidia or AMD, and everything I have to buy myself. So after buying the 4090 for my personal use and also to use it on the channel, honestly, I have no money to buy a 7900 XTX or even XT. So if any one of you want to send some money just for me to buy it, I'm going to leave my PayPal in the description, even though I don't think anyone is going to be giving me money, and you shouldn't. But it's just to tell you, I'm doing everything I can, but I won't be able to. So if anyone wants to give me one, or AMD wants to give me one for testing purposes, I would love to do it, because I really want to test this 7900 XT and being able to tell you they are good products, because that's what we need in this space, is good products, not become fanboys of one brand or the other. I want competition, I want better prices, and that's why I root for Intel and why I show the ARC 750 as much as I can, because I really want them to improve and to bring us a better product. So hopefully this video helps you to make decisions and to clarify some myths that are out there. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.